I never expected a CEO to invite a janitor to her party. What happened next was unbelievable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other Thursday. The sun was just rising, filtering through the grime-covered windows of the office building where I scrubbed floors and emptied trash. I was running a mop along the hallway when I overheard whispers. They always thought I was just background noise. But I heard them clearly. The CEO's annual party inviting anyone from the building this year. It felt impossible. CEOs and janitors. It was like oil and water never meant to mix. As the day dragged on, my heart raced with a storm of emotions. I imagined what that party would be like, lavish food, sparkling drinks, laughter echoing in the halls. I closed my eyes, imagining myself there, standing on the edge of elegance. But reality pulled me back. I was nothing more than a faceless cleaner. Who would ever want me there? I glanced around as the day's chatter of coworkers bounced around me, oblivious to my dreams. My colleagues were dressed in their blazer-clad best, murmurs of outfits and shoes stirring up envy in my chest. There was Liz, the HR manager with her designer heels, and Tom, the marketing ace known for his flashy ties. I couldn't help but feel small, invisible among them. But that day, something odd happened. An ornate email arrived, a grand invitation adorned with golden letters inviting everyone to the gala. Disbelief washed over me. I looked at the message, my hands trembling. Did this really include me? Could I really step into that world? It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, glancing down into the dark unknown. As the clock ticked closer to 7, I stood in front of my mirror, battling with my reflection. Sweat clung to my brow. What would I wear? The closet held little promise. I picked out my best outfit, a faded black dress, not exactly party-worthy. But it would have to do. That tiny spark of hope ignited in my chest, urging me to take the leap. That night, the air crackled with electricity. I arrived, clutching the invitation like a lifeline. My heart raced as I approached the entrance, flanked by glossy walls adorned with shimmering decorations. I felt like an intruder crashing a palace. All around me, laughter erupted, splashes of color, and rich sounds enveloped me. It was intoxicating. Then, a sudden hush fell over the crowd like a thick blanket. I looked up, confused. The CEO, radiant in her tailored dress, stood at the podium. Her gaze swept over the crowd and then landed on me. The room held its breath. What was she going to say? My heart thudded loudly, drowning out the music. Tonight, I want to honor someone who's often overlooked. She smiled, bright and coaxing. My stomach nodded. Was this really happening? My breath quickened as every eye turned toward me, expectant and curious. Just then, the lights flickered, and the room seemed to transform. Whispers grew chaotic, and for a moment, uncertainty cast a shadow across my heart. Then, just as suddenly, everything went dark. A gasp traced through the guests. I clutched my dress, fighting panic. The silence felt suffocating. I was trapped in a bubble of confusion. And that's when I heard Ida's soft, chilling voice breaking through the chaos. She's not who you think she is. The words felt heavy, loaded with something sinister. Was that aimed at me? My thoughts spun like a whirlwind, the elegant haze replaced by an unsettling dread that I felt a pull, a force shifting beneath me. Who could have said that? Who was I really? As the lights flickered back on, the room remained fixated on me, uncertainty etched on their faces. I knew in that moment, everything I thought would happen was about to unravel. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content. Coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. The lights flickered back on, and I stood there, frozen. It was as if the world had shifted just a little too much, tilting me from the pedestal of hope I had just begun to stand upon. The crowd's faces morphed from curiosity to suspicion in an instant. They were no longer admiring the seemingly out-of-place janitor but evaluating a puzzle that didn't fit. The murmurings washed over me like a tide I couldn't escape. Who even is she? A voice echoed from the rear, laden with disdain. My cheeks burned, and I wanted to shrink back into anonymity, to vanish into the shadows where I belonged. The visions of laughter and friendship I had manufactured in my mind fizzled out, leaving only the raw sting of exposure that I made my way to the back of the hall, desperate for a retreat. Every step felt like a violation of my aching heart. How could this have turned from a dream into a nightmare so quickly? The delicate balance between aspiration and reality teetered dangerously towards the latter. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me, their eyes cutting through the pretense of the evening. Hey! A gentle hand caught my arm. It was Mia, one of the junior accountants I often exchanged smiles with during the mundane grind of our day-to-day lives. Are you okay? Her eyes shone with genuine concern, a stark contrast to the smirk that had just echoed through the hall. That I shrugged, overwhelmed. I thought my voice faltered, caught between disbelief and embarrassment. Just a moment, she reassured gently. Come with me. Without waiting for a response, she turned and led me away from the glaring spotlight to a quieter corner of the venue, away from scrutinizing eyes. The thumping bass thudded faintly in the background, like a distant heartbeat. That I was watching you up there, Mia continued, her voice softer now. And I know it felt heavy, but you deserve to be here. Don't let them dim your light. Her kindness felt like a balm to my raw emotions. But I started, struggling with the knot of anxiety spilling in my throat. They don't see me as I am. They only see a janitor. It doesn't matter what they see. You're more than what this job defines you as, she insisted, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity one hadn't expected. You're brave for even coming here. So many wouldn't have the courage. The warmth of her words wrapped around my fraying spirit. It was a small flicker of hope shattering through the shadows. Then, like an electric pulse, another figure approached, a tall man in an expensive suit. I recognized him from past meetings in the break room, Stephen, the vice president of operations, always surrounded by laughter and crowds. Excuse me, Mia, he said coolly, his attention flipping to me like a switch. Can I have a word? Sure. I replied, the uncertainty wrapping around my words. That he ushered me to the far side of the room where the chatter had softened, and he leaned in with a conspiratorial whisper. I know it must feel isolating. You've been in the shadows while we've been in the spotlight. He paused, watching my expression for a reaction. But I see potential in you. If you're ever looking for a way out of that role, I have connections. Why mind raced. Was this real? Was he genuinely offering me a lifeline or to make a mockery out of my situation? Don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, he pressed gently. People like you can elevate this company if you're given a chance. Just think about it, will you? Before I could respond, he stepped back into the crowd, leaving me to wrestle with the weight of his offer. Sudden, implausible, echoing dreams of possibility that felt just out of reach. Hope and confusion warred within me, each battling for prominence. Mia, watching me with an encouraging smile, seemed to sense my turmoil, but then, the soft rustle of a dress disrupted my thoughts. I turned to see the CEO approaching, a determined look on her face that sent my pulse racing. Can we talk? She asked sincerely, steering me away from the crowd. My heart pounded. What else could go wrong tonight? Had the darkness that brushed against me earlier summoned the scrutiny of the very woman I admired? Certainly, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. As we moved away from the revelry, I felt the enormity of the moment like a weight on my chest. She paused beneath the crystal chandelier, illuminated as though the universe had chosen this very spot for our meeting. I noticed the whispers earlier, she began, her tone unyielding yet compassionate. You should know that you're seen, and your thoughts matter. I want to hear your story. As I stood there on the precipice of a potential confrontation or connection, a door slowly creaked open within my heart, only to expose unspeakable fears that had lingered for far too long. Just then, a notification pinged on my phone, an unknown number. My stomach dropped as I hesitated to see what awaited me. As I pulled it out to check, the CEO's eyes bore into me, pleading for my trust. Not just in her, but in myself. I hesitated, torn between this moment of vulnerability and the unknown lurking in my hand. My breath caught, and with it, a single question reverberated in my mind: what awaited me on the other side of that screen? My heart raced as I stared at the phone in my hand, the little screen glowing suggestively in the muted light of the hall. The CEO's presence seemed to magnify the tension, a palpable force weaving through the air. I couldn't tell if the ping was an opportunity or another blow to the fragile sense of self I had just begun to reclaim. With bated breath, I released the grip on my phone and reluctantly glanced at the message. The brief text was simple yet cryptic: "I know you were thinking of leaving. Don't. There's more happening at the company than you realize." The ensuing silence felt deafening, each word reverberating through my mind and leaving me breathless. Who could be sending something like this? And why did it sit heavy in my chest, a mix of dread and intrigue? Is everything all right? The CEO's gentle voice brought me back to the moment. Her concern was genuine, and yet I could sense a hidden layer in her gaze, as if she too understood the weightiness of hidden truths. Just received a message," I stammered, my eyes darting back to the screen. The unfamiliar knot of anxiety twisted in my stomach again. "It's nothing." "Sorry." She stepped a bit closer, her eyes not leaving mine. "You can trust me. I want to help you, truly." I could feel the sincerity emanating from her, a warmth that momentarily softened the sharp edges of my doubt. But trust was a fragile thing, and my heart was still bruised. It's hard to explain, but I didn't think I'd find myself in this position tonight. It feels like one step forward and then 5 steps back. She interjected softly, the understanding noticeable in her tone. "Yes," I admitted, the weight of her words hitting a resonant chord. I thought walking into this place, I'd finally be seen for who I am, not just my role. Being a janitor is just one part of your identity. You are so much more, and I want you to see that." She paused, then continued, "I would love to hear about your vision for the company. We need fresh ideas, and you offer a unique perspective. But first, we must build your confidence." Those words hung in the air, floating between us like a thread waiting to be tugged. The thought of sharing my vision, of claiming my voice, was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, an unexpected flash of movement caught my eye, forcing me to glance back at the crowd. There, encircling the dance floor, the whispers had risen to a genuine buzz. A scene unfolding in the center of it all: Stephen, standing with a group of executives, their attention trained on another figure, casting furtive glances in my direction. Confusion skated through me. "What's happening?" I murmured, pulling my gaze from the CEO's piercing stare to the unfolding spectacle. I could feel an invisible thread connecting my heart to the chaos across the room, taut with tension. "Let's not focus on them," the CEO encouraged, but her face revealed a flicker of concern. "I can't help but wonder what they're saying," I breathed, heart racing. And then it hit me hard, like a punch to the gut. Stephen had been looking at me with interest. Their laughter echoed through the space, sharp and pointed, like shards of glass falling scattered across the polished floor. My breath quickened as a voice broke through the cacophony, amplified by the loudspeakers. "We're so proud of our employees who dare to dream. Don't we all aspire to step beyond our roles?" Stephen's voice, with performative zeal, was the catalyst for the growing recognition surrounding me. "Let's hear it for our very own janitor turned potential star." A wave of realization flashed through me, it was like ice water cascading down my spine. The crowd's laughter morphed into a chaotic blend of applause and mockery, each clap feeling like a dagger aimed directly at my heart. The intimacy of the moment with the CEO evaporated as I felt her presence slip away, replaced by a blinding spotlight illuminating my humiliation. "Stop," I whispered, though I didn't know if I was asking them or pleading for my heart to cease its relentless pounding. They didn't see me, they saw an object, a fascination, a punchline. "I'm not a spectacle," I managed, my voice breaking as I waded through the shifting tide of adrenaline and shame. I just wanted to belong. Tears pricked at my eyes, my composure hanging by a slender thread, threatened to unravel before their eyes. As laughter continued to puncture the air with cruel sharpness, a figure emerged from the edge of the crowd. Mia, her face painted with determination. She forged a path through the throng, her brow furrowed in unwavering support. When she reached me, she locked her arm through mine, squeezing tightly. "They're wrong," she said fiercely, staring down the mocking pack. In that moment of solidarity, a flicker of warmth breathed life into the shadows, but the commotion remained unyielding, a tempest around me. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. In a second message from the unknown contact: "The secrets in your company could change your life. Do not ignore this." With both the chaos of laughter and the unexpected kindness of Mia pulsating around me, I stood at a crossroads, each path draped in uncertainty. The echoes of my ambitions fought against the shadows that had claimed my spirit for too long. "Will you stand with me?" I muttered to Mia, my heart torn in multiple directions. "Always." As the laughter of the crowd reached a crescendo, my heartbeat synced with the murmurings of the unknown messages buzzing in my pocket. I was facing a battle that had just begun, a war for my identity in a space where most still sought to dismiss me, but what would happen if I forged ahead? I didn't know. And the gut-wrenching sense of foreboding clawed at me as the laughter reached an echoing climax, leaving me unable to predict what was waiting just around the corner. The laughter continued to swarm like a hive of angry bees, insistent and unforgiving. Panic clawed at my throat, and I felt the walls of the banquet hall closing in on me. The smirk plastered on Stephen's face pierced through the shield of Mia's unwavering support, each chuckle from the crowd puncturing the air with barbed wire. "I can't do this," I whispered to Mia, my voice barely above a breath. "I can't be their punchline." "Breathe," she instructed, her grip firm. There was an unyielding strength in her presence, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this chaos. "You are not defined by what they think of you. Remember who you are." Her words echoed in my mind like a lighthouse cutting through my fog of doubt. I took a deep breath, but the motion felt laden with the clenching weight of expectation. What they wanted from me was clear: it was spectacle over substance, laughter over legacy, but beyond the laughter, I could sense a flicker of something growing within me, a small ember waiting for air. What if I could wrestle back control? I could return Stephen's bleak mockery with my vision, with authenticity that might just level their disdain. I could be the unexpected hero of my own story. Gathering my strength, I raised my gaze to meet Stephen's, though my throat tightened in fear. "You think him a joke?" I called out, my voice trembling as I embraced the challenge that surged from Mia's encouragement. The crowd fell quiet, surprised by my sudden boldness. I could see Stephen's expression falter momentarily, perhaps caught off guard by this unexpected response. "You think my role here is just a stepping stone? That I'm just here to clean and disappear?" I continued, feeling the heat simmering within. "I refuse to be your punchline. I'm a part of this company, and one day, you'll know my name for more than just this moment." Murmurs washed through the audience, curiosity knitting their brows together as the tide started to shift. Mia stepped closer, her presence still a steadfast anchor against the brevity of resolve that tried to flee. "Yes," she shouted. "You are so much more than what they see. Show them." Encouragement poured out of her as if I were sifting through a fountain of warmth against the frost of their dismissal. It was exhilarating to face the adversary instead of retreat into the shadows of shame. With each heartbeat, conviction coursed through my veins. "I'm not just the janitor," I stated, more to myself than anyone. "I have dreams, ideas that could change everything if only you'd listen." The CEO, who had momentarily drifted into the background, stepped back into focus, her brows knitted in concentration, watching the exchange unfold. I knew she heard the tremor in my voice, felt the rise of courage, or was it defiance? Either way, she stood as a silent sentry in the storm, a flickering presence of possibility that dried my tears before they could fall. Go on, she encouraged gently, but her voice had the authority of a leader who understood the value of a fighter. I've spent my life cleaning up the messes made by others, both figuratively and literally, I began, my heart racing as I seized this moment to speak not only for myself but for all the unseen workers. But I'm tired of just tidying up the edges. I want to be part of the revolution. The tide had certainly turned. The whispers of the audience rose in pitch, a mix of shock and intrigue. In that charged moment, I could feel an unfamiliar warmth brushing against my skin, the whispers morphing into murmurs of curiosity. The eyes that once adorned me with mockery now flickered with unanticipated respect. Or are you all too afraid of what I might say? I challenged, leaning into the power this moment offered, each word tinged with vulnerability but firm with resolve. And just as the melody of curiosity began to harmonize around me, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, a framed urgency, drowning out the moment in a cacophony of anxiety. I hesitated, glancing down at the screen that lit up yet again with another message: trust me. If you want to unveil the truth, meet me at the old warehouse. Midnight. Your colleagues are hiding things that will shake the core of your work. The sudden anticipation struck like a bolt of electricity, urging me to act. The weight of the crowd faded slightly from my consciousness, replaced by the magnetic pull of the unknown. I was torn, caught between unveiling my true self before the crowd and the allure of secrets about my workplace laced with danger. Before I could gather my thoughts, a hand slipped around my shoulder. It was Mia, her eyes sparkling with determination. What's going through your mind? I think I need to find out what this is, I admitted, my voice wavering but resolute. The promise of the secrets waiting to be unearthed felt too tantalizing to ignore, yet the fear of what it might mean for me lingered close by. Whatever it is, you don't have to go alone. I'll be there every step of the way, she affirmed, shadows of the previous chaos lingering behind us, but they no longer felt like the forces controlling me. As the chatter of the crowd ebbed and flowed around me, a strange cocktail of thrill and trepidation surged within. Whatever lay ahead at midnight would force me to confront not just the secrets held by my company, but the truths that had lived within me all along. Would I have the strength to face them? As I stood before the wreckage of what I'd just endured, the choice loomed large and frightening. And with that, an inescapable truth washed over me: the night was just beginning, and the real unveiling was yet to come. The minutes felt like hours as the banquet hall's chatter faded into a dull buzz, and all I could feel was the electrifying weight of the impending night. I grasped Mia's hand tighter, her steadfastness anchoring me amidst the storm. The thought of what was hidden beneath my workplace's polished surface clawed at the edges of my curiosity, but fear coiled itself around my chest at the idea of what I might discover. That I didn't come this far just to walk away, I whispered, more to myself than to Mia. But what if I'm not ready for what I'll find? You've already started to unveil your voice tonight, Mia replied, her confidence as fierce as a flame. This is just a chapter in your story. What lies ahead, whatever it is, will be the catalyst you need. Her reassurance pushed me forward. I steeled myself, a burgeoning strength unfolding in my chest, and for the first time, I allowed myself to dream of a future where I was more than just the background figure, more than the janitor with an old broom. With every step toward the old warehouse, I recounted my journey in my mind, the moments where I'd felt unseen, where I'd folded into shadows, and now, where I was finally beginning to stand in the light. The familiar block appeared, the graying exterior of the faded warehouse looming ahead, tauntingly inviting, promising revelations yet cloaked in mystery. "I'll wait outside," Mia said softly, sensing the weight of what was about to unfold. "You go in and see what you need to see. I'll be right here if you need me." A whoosh of cold air met my face as I stepped through the creaking door, its rusty hinges protesting. The light was dim inside, casting long shadows that danced across the large space filled with remnants of forgotten machinery and dusty crates. An unsettling silence wrapped around me, the kind that yelled of long-held secrets and unheard whispers. The atmosphere prickled with tension as I navigated between beams and rusting metal, my senses heightened. I could feel the importance of this place, the weight of the truths it housed. I approached a flickering light at the far end of the warehouse, my heart pounding with crashing anticipation. "Hello." My voice broke into the silence, echoing back to me like a haunting call. I took a step forward, then another, before I saw the silhouetted figure standing before a disheveled table covered in papers. "Glad you came." It was a voice I knew all too well, one that had overseen countless meetings and began many of my early mornings. It was Raymond, one of the upper management, known for his decisive demeanor and unyielding presence. My breath caught in my throat. "What are you doing here?" The words came out rough, shaking with disbelief. "What could possibly be so important?" He chuckled, albeit humorlessly, glancing nervously over his shoulder as he began to sift through stacks of documents. "You're about to find out that not everything is as it seems. I've been waiting for someone like you to uncover this." "What do you mean?" I took a cautious step closer, sensing that the air was thick with danger. "Uncover what?" Raymond paused, the tension in his shoulders crackling with urgency as he leaned closer, his face illuminated by the flicker of a single bulb. "You've been cleaning up what we don't want anyone to know. You've seen things, haven't you? Things that are swept under the rug. That's why I reached out, because this company is hiding significant discrepancies, the kind that could send people to jail." My heart raced. Each word drilled into my mind with a sharp clarity. "Wait, are you saying," he interrupted, his voice low, "if you keep digging, you might find something earth-shattering enough to bring the entire company to its knees?" Panic gnawed at my insides. This was no longer about finding my voice, it was a deep dive into the murky waters of betrayal and complicity. I felt the world tilt beneath me as the scope of what he was saying honed into focus. "But if I expose this, I could lose everything." Raymond stepped closer, the intensity of his gaze unmistakable. "Or you could gain everything you've ever dreamt of. Are you willing to take that risk? Are you coming on board with this?" Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from the entrance of the warehouse. Startled, we both spun toward the sound as shadows cast by city streetlights surged like a tide through the doorway. The scream of tires skidding filled the still night air, and I felt a shiver run up my spine. "Mia!" I shouted, the name tearing from my throat as I surged back toward the entrance, adrenaline propelling me forward. As I reached the door, my heart sank at the sight before me. There, in the light of the street, stood several of my co-workers, a shifting mixture of anger and confusion written on their faces, and at their center was Stephen, his expression twisted with retribution. "Thought you could just disappear, did you?" He sneered, his voice a venomous hiss that cut through the night. "Let's see how much you're really worth." My mind raced back to the pivotal moment just moments before, seeking truth versus facing judgment, caught resting between the choices laid bare before me. In that split second, as I stood face to face with Stephen and the eyes of my peers, another realization dropped like a stone into my spirit. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd wished to uncover, was crumbling into chaos. The confrontation I feared the most was about to unfold, and it felt like standing on the edge of an unfathomable abyss. "Mia, run!" I shouted as my resolve faltered, the unexpected storm threatening to swallow us whole. The night might indeed hold all the secrets I longed to expose, but it also bore consequences I wasn't prepared to face yet. Here we were, clinging to our hopes in the darkness, teetering on the brink of unraveling. The energy in the air was palpable, heavy with a mix of fear and adrenaline as I faced Stephen and the small group who had seemingly come to reclaim control over a narrative that no longer belonged to them. My hands were clammy, fingers trembling slightly as I clutched the door frame, desperate for balance amid the chaos threatening to break loose. "What's going on here?" Stephen demanded, stepping forward with an imposing posture, his eyes glinting like shards of glass. The others shifted uneasily behind him. "You think you can just slink away without telling anyone? The truth doesn't just disappear, you know." "Mia, please," I repeated, my voice almost choking on the frustration brewing inside me. If I could just get her to safety, maybe I could face the music myself. Instead, I watched helplessly as she stepped forward beside me, an unwavering force amid palpable trepidation. "We're not hiding," she said, her voice steady, embodying the strength of 1,000 moments she had pulled me through. "What we're discovering matters." "Discovering?" Stephen laughed, the sound harsh and brittle. "You think you've stumbled onto something important? You think anyone cares what you have to say? Something snapped within me, at just the need to defend myself but my longing to rise above being just the background. I matter, I asserted, stepping out into the light, adrenaline surging through my veins. We matter. You've made me feel invisible long enough. A spark flickered across the group. Was that surprise I saw in some of their eyes? Or was it pity? It was hard to tell amid the turmoil swirling around me. Get them, Stephen shouted, his voice reverberating like a war drum, inciting a sense of impending violence. The others advanced, likely prepared to dismiss me in whatever way they deemed fit or scare me back into the dusty, menial existence I'd clawed my way from, but behind them, I caught a glimpse of Raymond as he emerged from the shadows of the warehouse, watching the scene unfold with an inscrutable expression. I had expected him to rally to my side, to add weight to my rebellion, or even to diffuse the tension with his authority. Instead, he stood there, hands shoved deep into his pockets, a distant observer cloaked in uncertainty. What are you waiting for? Stephen shouted at Raymond, the desperation spilling over. You said you'd help me. This is your chance. Put them in their place. I glanced back at Raymond, his familiar features flickering like a flame on the verge of snuffing out. He could see how the odds were stacked against me, just as he could probably sense that Stephen was slipping from his control. I searched for a glimmer of recognition in Raymond's eyes, hoping he'd choose to stand with us. It was a silent call to action. Let them leave, he said at last, the decision heavy and deliberate. What? Stephen balked, incredulous. He looked as if I'd just pulled a rug from beneath him. You can't be serious. They don't deserve to walk away intact after all that's happened. Enough, Stephen. If you continue to escalate things this way, you're playing into their hands. They want the truth to come out. Letting this confrontation become a fistfight only proves their point. The other employees shifted, weighing their loyalties quietly, uncertainty beginning to churn among them. Perhaps they were starting to question the man who had led them down this implosive path. Fine. Stephen glared at me, his face taut with impotent rage. But mark my words, they won't get away with this. With one last glance towards his disillusioned coworkers, he waved them off, leading them back to the vehicle. A tension broke in the air, but I could feel the pressing weight of unresolved conflict settling around us again like a storm cloud. The skies seemed darker, laced with the intensity of unspoken threats and the volatility of choices not yet fully realized. Mia, I said, turning to her, fear lacing my words. I can't go back to work anymore. Not after this. She reached for my hand, her warmth grounding me against the chill creeping through my bones. We'll figure it out together, she assured. Softly, but doubt clung to her words like fog that dissipated as quickly as the fist fight could have ignited. Just as I started to gather my thoughts, Raymond stepped forward, breaking the fragile silence. Listen, I know what just happened was intense, but I need to talk to you. We can't let this slide. There's so much more going on than you realize. My heart raced again as I replayed his earlier warnings in my head. What do you mean? I asked, a tinge of disbelief coloring my voice. He hesitated, glancing back toward where Stephen's group had disappeared. It isn't just about the discrepancies in the company. There are ties here that reach into things much deeper, more dangerous than just your job. If you go down this path, you might uncover truths about yourself, about those you trust. The implication hung between us like a thread pulled taut, the balance of my life teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Each answer could lead to another terrifying question. What are you saying? I questioned, my heart pounding heavily in my chest as dread crept closer. As Raymond opened his mouth to respond, the ground trembled slightly beneath our feet, and I felt a rush of cold air whip through the alley as if stirring the world awake. My pulse raced while an echo of fear washed over me. Had I unearthed a truth meant to stay buried? Sometimes the past refuses to stay buried, he finally said, his voice a mere whisper as the lights flickered once more, plunging us momentarily into darkness, the conversation frozen in mid-air while uncertainty loomed ahead like a shadow carved into the night. The flickering lights did little to comfort the trembling silence that enveloped us. With Raymond's cryptic words hanging like a cloud of impending rain, I felt the weight of the unknown press down, urging me to recoil into the safety of my ignorance. What passed? I managed to utter, my throat tightening as dread clawed its way up from my stomach. Raymond looked away momentarily, his gaze fixed on the shadows where Stephen's group had vanished. There are pieces of this company, pieces of your life, that you haven't fully grasped yet. I thought I could protect you from the implications, he admitted, his voice barely breaking through the quiet. But it seems it's no longer in my control. You need to know who you're dealing with. Before I could process his words, a voice emerged from the darkness beyond the flickering lights, smooth yet laced with an undertone of malice. It's always about control, isn't it, Ray? The towering figure of Lila stepped into view, her presence a stark contrast to the frailness of the night. Dressed sharply, her ambition coiled around her like a venomous snake ready to strike. What a lovely little moment you all have here. But it seems someone's been feeding you lies. My heart raced. I had expected Stephen, but the arrival of Lila sent a chill fluttering through me. You shouldn't be here, I found myself whispering, the weight of her gaze enough to steal my breath. Oh, sweet Mia. The way she said my name sent shivers down my spine. You're only beginning to scratch the surface, aren't you? This little rebellion of yours is cute, but you have no idea of what's truly at stake. What do you want? I demanded, even though a part of me trembled at the thought of what she might say or do. Lila's lips curled into a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. Control, dear. Just like Raymond said. She cast a glance toward him, her expression shifting to one of mocking pity. He's always been so keen on protecting the vulnerable, hasn't he? It's sweet if not utterly foolish. Raymond stepped protectively closer to me, his presence a shield against Lila's venomous words. You're playing a dangerous game, Lila, he warned. Leave her out of this, but Lila merely laughed, a sharp, lilting sound that echoed in the alley like glass shattering. Too late for that. Mia here has interests that align with deeper truths, ones that could ruin everything you've built up. Don't you want to know what's really going on? Or would you prefer to stay in the shadows of your naivety? I'd rather choose my own path, I interjected, surprising myself with the fierceness of my conviction. Lila gave me a playful tilt of her head, her amusement obvious. Then let me make it clear, she said, stepping closer, the air thickening with her threatening allure. You're not the only one with ties here. There are currents beneath this company, and they can swallow you whole if you're not careful. The past is alive, and it's hungry for those too naive to recognize the signs. With that, her eyes gleamed as she turned to Raymond, a predator circling its prey. You know what I mean, don't you? You can't protect her forever, and once the truth comes out, you won't be able to keep your hands clean either. The air thickened with tension as I clutched Mia's hand tighter, grounding myself against the fear swirling around us. What had I uncovered? Without warning, a stray thought pierced through the chaos. Was Raymond hiding more than he let on? You think this is a game, don't you? Raymond shot back, unwilling to show weakness, each word carrying the weight of his protective nature. Mia deserves to know what kind of people you work with, what they're capable of. Oh, I'm merely giving her the opportunity to choose the right side, Lila sneered. But spoiling the surprise may not win you any favors. Just then, the lights flickered again, casting an eerie glow across the gritty pavement, and a sudden crashing sound echoed from the alley. My heart leaped, and I instinctively stepped back, pulling Mia closer. Stay back. Raymond warned as he positioned himself between us and the noise. The shadows shifted, and out of the chaos stumbled one of the warehouse workers, Alex. He was panting, his face ghostly pale, his eyes wild with panic. They're coming. He gasped, his fear palpable. Stephen and the others. Before he could finish, a crash resonated behind him, murmurs of anger rising like the tide, as if a wave of betrayal and chaos had finally exploded outward into the stillness of night. Lila's smirk faltered as she turned swiftly, her gaze darting from me to the crack in the darkness, a predator caught off guard. Run! She hissed at her remaining faction, as if the energy of her command could shield her personal savior from the impending storm. But as her voice faded into the night, I stood frozen, an unexpected weight settling in my gut. The path laid before me was one that might unravel everything, the ties I hadn't known existed, the danger that now circled like vultures above our heads. What do we do? MIA's voice trembled, her eyes wide as she searched mine for reassurance. In that moment, I realized what lay ahead could ensnare all of us, and the choice to stand tall against it rested squarely on my shoulders. Before I could muster a response, a loud shout echoed from the depths of the alley. There they are! And the ground beneath my feet shifted precariously as footsteps thundered closer, drowning out our thoughts and promises of safety but amplifying an urgency I had never felt before. With the darkness closing in, I took a resolute breath, filled with a flickering ember of hope that somehow would uncover the truth, and in that uncharted territory lay my chance at wielding my own story. But deep down, I knew one thing. The safety I'd been craving was further out of reach than I ever anticipated. The chaos that erupted in the alley felt surreal, as if time had paused just for a moment to let me digest the weight of my choices. A cacophony of shouts and pounding footsteps reverberated against the brick walls, an orchestra of impending doom that beckoned us to flee. "Mia, we need to go now," I urged, gripping her hand tightly, my heart racing not only with fear but a burgeoning resolve that I hadn't fully realized until now. "Where?" she implored, her voice trembling as she tried to piece together the fractured reality around us. Before I could respond, a shadowy figure dashed past us, light flooding the alley as a door swung open nearby. It was Blake, a coworker whose infectious laughter always seemed to infuse our long shifts with a sense of camaraderie. "In here!" he shouted, his face pale yet determined as he ushered us toward the light spilling from the open door. Without a moment's hesitation, I pulled Mia along, our feet pounding against the concrete, urgency driving us toward the brief sanctuary that was Blake's choice, away from the surging tide of hostility closing in behind us. Once safe inside, I found myself shrouded in a strange kind of stillness, for the chaos outside faded into a distant hum. We stood in a dimly lit storage room, the dank aroma of old lumber and dust filling the air. The only sound was our heavy breathing, punctuating the silence that had become a cloak, carpeting our shared dread. "Are you okay?" Blake's concern steadied his voice as he focused on Mia, whose expression flitted between fear and confusion. It dawned on me then how quickly this world spun, how relationships forged in the mundane could become lifelines in dire moments. "I don't know," Mia stammered, shaking her head as the reality of Lila's unsettling words pressed heavily on her heart. "What is happening?" Blake glanced at me, understanding the unspoken language that passed between us. "I heard about the tension, something's brewing within the company, people are getting restless. The recent firings only cranked it up a notch." His gaze intensified, searching for answers even he didn't have. "You shouldn't be involved in all of this, Mia. It's dangerous." A soft laugh, one that did not match MIA's inner turmoil, escaped me. "Tell us something we don't know," I replied, shaking my head at the fickle nature of our circumstances. "But we need to know more." Before we could sink deeper into the darkness of this layered revelation, the door rattled violently, the sound punctuated by angry shouts that vibrated through the walls. Fear clawed back into my chest, a reminder of how fragile our sanctuary truly was. "Quick!" I whispered urgently, moving away from the door as Blake fumbled with a stack of boxes against the wall. With swift determination, we hid behind them, the weight of the world closing in on our little makeshift fortress. The door burst open, heavy boots thudding onto the floor. A handful of familiar faces stumbled in, their expressions reflecting a mixture of rage and bewilderment. Among them was Stephen, his wild hair framing a face twisted with emotion. "Where are they?" he demanded, scanning the room, his presence like a storm cloud that threatened to erupt. The tension crackled around us, thick enough to slice through. "What do you want from us?" I couldn't hold back my desire to confront him, anger igniting a simmering fire within me. "Where's Lila?" he snapped, the words biting and urgent. "We need her here, she's the last person we want around." I shot back, my defensiveness shielded by the weight of my fear and the calculated risk of my voice echoing too loudly in this fragile hideaway. Blake tensed beside me, a silent plea in his gaze urging caution. "Lila knows things," Stephen gritted out, his voice low and strained. "Things that can destroy us, and she's not about to let her hold slip away." Andrew, one of Stephen's loyal followers, interjected, and without her, we are dead in the water. She's our only shot at taking control before it's too late. The realization struck me like a punch to the gut. My world, once revolving around coffee breaks and casual banter, was a landscape of control and loss teetering on the brink of chaos. Control? I echoed incredulously. This isn't about control anymore, it's about survival. As the words left my mouth, the door sprang open wider, and there stood Lila, every inch the enigma with her poised confidence. Ah, how quaint to find you all huddled together in such fright. But I assure you, the real heart of this conflict lies deeper than you can see, she cooed, her expression a stunning blend of amusement and menace. Mia. Raymond's voice rang out from a distance, filled with both urgency and a flicker of hope. Instinctively, I turned, and there he was, emerging from the shadows where Stephen and his group had burst in. They're trying to get to you, he warned, rushing through the door with a fierce protectiveness that illuminated all the conflicting emotions I had felt toward him. The room felt smaller as the tension coiled tighter around us, a fierce battle now playing out not just in the physical realm but within my own heart. Mia, listen to me, Raymond pressed, urgency coloring his voice. You want to know the truth? The past, our past, has returned to haunt us, and it's time you decided which side you want to be on. As fear wrestled with the flickering flame of uncertainty, I couldn't shake the feeling that the moment I chose would send ripples through us all. And just as I began to grasp the enormity of that decision, an earth-shattering tremor shook the building, a harbinger of what lay ahead. As the lights flickered ominously above us and the world threatened to collapse, I realized with a sinking heart that the path forward was riddled with unimaginable secrets and decisions I wasn't ready to confront. But now, caught in the throes of fate, there was no turning back. The truth was waiting, whether I wanted it or not. The tremor subsided, leaving an air thick with apprehension and the scent of panic. It was disorienting, as if the very foundation beneath us had shifted, reflecting the chaos that raged within. My heart thundered in my chest, battling the sudden urge to run and the desperate need to uncover the reality of our predicament. Mia. Lila's voice cut through the haze, sharp and commanding. You need to understand the risks floating around you. She stepped forward, a predator encroaching upon its prey, her presence both magnetic and terrifying. Don't let fear cloud your potential. I swallowed hard, finding the strength to stand firm against the force of her gaze. Potential for what, Lila? Power? Control? Or just more chaos? I spat, my voice shaking with a fury born of desperation. You think this is about climbing an invisible ladder when everything could collapse at any moment? Raymond stepped closer, his expression fierce, yet something within it hinted at a hidden vulnerability. You have to trust me, Mia. Lila knows more than she's letting on about what's happening in the company. About why things are spiraling. Mia's eyes darted between us, reflecting turmoil and confusion. But why would she help us? Why would any of you? She said softly, indignant disbelief thickening the air. I won't pretend to be your savior, but I can help you glimpse the truth, Lila replied, her sultry voice oozing confidence as she toyed with a lock of her sleek hair. You really know nothing. This wasn't just a few firings, it's a chess game where the stakes are far deadlier than you can fathom. Then tell us. I snapped, the weight of my fear igniting the panic in my throat. Tell us what we need to understand before it's too late. While we're still alive. The urgency in my tone broke free of the fear that had been clawing at me since all of this began. Unless you're ready for the consequences, she murmured, eyes glistening with a cold fascination, then let it happen. Ignore the message as it unfolds, and watch everything you cherish vanish. With every word, something inside me recoiled. The shadows danced across the dimly lit room as if mocking my uncertainty. How had this vibrant work environment, a place filled with laughter, ambitions, and friendships, turned into such a treacherous battleground? Andrew turned to Stephen, his frustration palpable. If we're going to make a move, it has to be soon. We can't waste time listening to her riddles. Time is precisely what we don't have, Lila interjected, her tone both dismissive and brimming with self-importance. But I can help you navigate this world. Join me, and you might just find the power to change everything. I could hardly digest the offer, let alone its implications. Trusting Lila felt akin to grasping a snake. The initial adrenaline was exhilarating, followed by the dread of potential venom. A lifetime spent in coffee runs and doting on trivialities, now turned upside down in the face of life-altering decisions laid bare in front of me. "That's the thing," I said, hesitation cracking my voice. "You're only interested in us because we're pawns in your game. You don't care about what happens to anyone but yourself. Self-preservation isn't a crime, Mia," Lila smirked, eyes dancing with feigned innocence. "You'll learn soon enough that in this world, survival often comes with a price." My heart sank. The cost of survival was increasing, and I was terrified of the toll it would demand from us all. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, a loud banging filled the air, demanding and insistent, like a clock ticking down to the moment of truth. "Mia." Raymond's voice cut through the chaos. "We don't have much time. They'll come looking for us, and when they do, we need to know where we stand. I can't protect you from the choices that could decide everything. Why should I trust you?" I whispered, my voice clambering above the roar of uncertainty, "Because in this mess, you're the only thing that feels real." His gaze locked onto mine, the sincerity of his words igniting something deep within me. "You matter most, even if you can't see it. It's time to choose a side." Before I could formulate a coherent response, the door behind Lila burst open, and in stormed a cohort of men, their faces lined with aggression and purpose. I recognized one immediately. My blood ran cold at the sight of Marcus, the head of security, eyes glinting with a manic focus. "I knew you were here," he growled, his gaze fixed on Mia, who stood frozen in fear. "Get behind me," I urged instinctively, shielding her from the imminent threat. Blake positioned himself in front of us, brave but shaking, and Raymond took a step forward, ready to defy whatever fate awaited us. "Enough games, Lila." Marcus spat. "You've got some explaining to do. And I'm not alone in wanting answers." He gestured menacingly to his group, a swarm of resentment and hostility washing over them. The atmosphere turned electric, tension slipped into whatever hope we clung to, casting us deeper into the unknown. With Blake and Raymond at my side, we stood on the precipice of a decision. Would we confront whatever darkness loomed ahead, or would we yield to the chaos that threatened to consume us whole? As the men closed in, accompanied by a chorus of enraged shouts echoing like dark prophecies in my mind, something in me cracked. I could feel the weight of worlds pressing down upon me, forcing my mouth to open, to shout over the blind rage that enveloped us. "This isn't the end." In that moment, uncertainty morphed into a flicker of resilience, ignited by sheer will. And just as it felt as though everything would spiral out of control, a hidden strength unfurled within me, a heart unwilling to yield, even when walls crumbled and shadows threatened. The chaos danced around us, and I realized that even in the darkest of moments, the choice to fight could right the wrongs lurking just out of reach. But as the final echoes of my defiance hung in the air, another tremor shook through the building, this one far more profound than before, anchoring the realization that our very survival hinged on the gathering storm. A low rumble resonated through the ground, each vibration bearing the weight of secrets long buried, and I felt my heart seize, a harbinger of an even greater revelation waiting just beyond the horizon. The tension cracked like ice shattering underfoot, the air heavy with consequence and fear. As I looked at the faces surrounding me, Mia, Blake, Raymond, Lila, and the relentless wave of hostility crashing in, it dawned on me that this wasn't simply a battle for power or control within the walls of this company. This was the very essence of who I was and who I could yet become. "What do you want from us?" I shouted, my voice rising above the cacophony that had become our reality. "You think scaring us into submission will solve anything?" Each word felt like an anchor, weighing down the chaotic storm swirling around us, demanding attention, urging change. Marcus stepped forward, his gaze locking onto mine with fervor, as if my courage could somehow fuel his arrogance. "You don't get to decide the terms, girl. I know who pulls the strings," he growled, a sinister grin breaking through. "Then let's pull them together," I countered, my heart thudding with the thrill of defiance. "If you think the truth will break us, you're mistaken. We're ready for it." All of it that moment, I could see a flicker of uncertainty dance behind Marcus' bravado, as if he hadn't anticipated that I could stand ground against the tide of rage. You don't know what you're dismissing. Then show me, I challenged, my voice gaining strength as I stepped forward, purpose guiding my steps. The choice was mine to grasp, to turn fear into action. You want to drag us down with your threats? You don't realize the strength this team carries, no matter what titles we wear. As the atmosphere trembled with raw energy, I turned back to my allies, seeking the camaraderie that had blossomed through this storm. Together, we'll rise despite your threats. You think you have all the control? You're wrong. We're going to share our truth, whether you like it or not. Mia's hand tightened in mine, her determination pulsing through our connection. We won't let fear dictate our narrative any longer, she declared. This isn't just about us, it's about dignity for every janitor, every unseen voice. What we build together will shatter the foundations of the lies you stand on. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Raymond's expression shift as he locked eyes with me, a newfound respect igniting sparks of alignment. If we're going to do this, we have to do it now, he urged. In that moment of collective reverberation, I turned toward Lila, who now stood with a faint flicker of intrigue in her composure. So, Lila, what will it be? I questioned, my chest lifting with the desire to unveil the truth nestled in the shadows of this struggle. Lila tilted her head slightly, an amused smile gracing her lips, as if she were assessing the audacity of our resolve. You think you can topple the pillars of this establishment? You think you can come out unscathed after what's been laid bare? Bravery often comes at a price. Then you'll pay it, I announced, my voice steadying with finality. We may be the janitors, the background noise, but we possess something greater than any threat you can throw at user voices. And together, we'll turn this narrative on its head, whether that's your plan or ours. The sudden thunder of footsteps drew nearer, a war cry engulfing the fragile pause that enveloped us. This is our moment to take the stand. Either side with us or face the consequences together. Marcus stepped forward aggressively, his group flanking him in a formidable line, but I stood resolute, feeling my allies shift behind me, a palpable energy locking us into an unyielding unit. As the storm outside escalated, we all felt the tremor beneath our feet, a shared pulse of defiance igniting something powerful within. Calm down. A shout came from the back, as Blake's face morphed with grim determination. We're taking back our power whether you agree or not, and if you threaten us, I added, my voice rising once more. Know this: we won't be silenced. Expose your secrets. Reveal your truths. We will stand against you as one unified voice, and by doing so, unleash a force so great that your grip will be forever shattered. With that proclamation, the air crackled. Like static electricity, a portal to unknown futures ripe with possibility. My heart raced as I faced the complexity of the moment, the shards of uncertainty cutting sharply through the facade of bravado surrounding us. But just as the stakes rose, something fell through the dust and shadows. The trembling walls of the warehouse splintered, echoing the deep truth we knew lay out there, a storm waiting to spill its ferocity beyond the threshold. The choice was clear: continue battling in the dark or unleash the light we carried together into the tempest. We'd risen from the margins, refusing to fade into the background any longer. Now's our time, I whispered to Mia, who smiled back at me with faith written in her eyes, a reflection of the unity we'd built against daunting odds. The door flung open further, illuminating the chaos. We surged forward, hearts racing, feet pounding against the concrete, ready to battle whatever lay ahead. Whatever storms awaited us outside could not be darker than the futures we dared to reclaim together. With one last glance over my shoulder, I held on to our resolve tightly as we crossed the threshold of that door, stepping into a world festooned with chaos but imbued with our strength, a collective spark of growth that awaited us like a high tide of hope. And just like that, standing as one against the specter of despair, I knew we were ready to fight, our hearts resolute, our voices carved into a passion set on shining light into the darkness, forever illuminated by the triumph of the truth we carried as we proclaimed our own destiny. In that powerful moment, the final line echoed through my mind: let us be the architects of our reality, for against all odds, we will not just endure the storm, but become the driving force that steers the winds of change.